Here we go again. It's the Overrated Experience Sports Betting Podcast, episode number 36. A lot to talk about today, but before we get started, welcome to everybody who is a returning listener, and welcome to anybody who's first trip down the Overrated Experience. Thank you for joining us today. So what you're getting into, if you have not joined us before, is it's a sports betting podcast that also dabbles into the latest sports betting news, whether it be locally here in Toronto or across the sports betting spectrum, mostly North American sports. We talk about everything under the sun, and I give my 2 cents on what I think of what's going on in sports. And you can follow us on Twitter. The Overrated Experience can be followed at Overrated, EXPER2, and that's at Twitter, and that's Overrated, EXPER2 at Twitter. Please join, send us your opinions, thoughts, and join the community. We want you there. We also have a Facebook page for the Overrated Sports Betting Overrated Experience Sports Betting Podcast, and you can find us under that name on Facebook. And like our page, get in there, join the community, and I like to post my picks, thoughts, takes, whatever, get the conversation going about sports gaming or sports overall. And of course, responsible gaming is why we're here. We will talk about trying to make some money. We'll talk about trying to, do some bad habits here. Maybe things like chasing, but it should never be at the expense of you don't have the bankroll to do it. If you got the bankroll to do it, then I say jump in. But if you don't, please, there's always tomorrow. There's always a new game. There's always games down the road. Bide your time. So, what are we going to talk about today? Well, man, there's NHL playoffs. There's NBA playoffs going on. NFL schedule released today. A lot of big matchups. Week 1 lines are already up. And also a few other lines are up for some international games and also special games. We'll talk about that a little bit as we get, obviously, it's in the air, baby. That's the beginning of the sports betting season when the NFL kicks off. So that is what the Overrated Experience Sports Betting Podcast is creeping up to. That is the mecca of sports gambling, and that's where we're headed to. So we'll stay on this journey as we get to football season if that's what you're into. We're also going to look at some EPL action. The English Premier League is coming down to the wire the last few games of the season. There's a lot of tight races with a lot of important games this weekend. We'll get into that. MLB, a few takes on MLB. MLB will be a lot more of the focus as we get into the dog days of summer. So we'll add a little bit of flavor for some baseball action. But you'll notice more and more of that as we go further into the summer, as I said. Well, what are we going to kick off with? Well, guess what? We're a Toronto-based podcast, and we're going to kick off with the life and times of the Toronto Maple Leafs. And these are my thoughts and these are my feelings on where things are at right now. So right now, the last podcast we had, the Leafs were in trouble. They were down. They have won a game against Florida in the second round of the NHL playoffs. I'm trying to remember last time we did the podcast. It was Thursday leading into Friday, and where were they at? They were up down 2-0 with a critical game to play on Sunday where they had to go to Florida, and they had to win and not go 3 games down. And all hell has broken loose due to the fact that the Leafs did lose Game 3 in not so fine fashion. The core 4, when we talk about the core 4 of the Toronto Maple Leafs, they speak of William Nylander, John Tavares, captain, Mitch Marner, and of course, Austin Matthews. And up to this point, they've had 0 goals coming into Game 4, which took place on Wednesday night. And Wednesday night. My apologies. There was a lengthier delay. So Wednesday night. And they walked into this game, do or die. And I can tell you the mood in Toronto, I'm telling you, it's not good. It was not good. This Leaf team has had years together, years of disappointment. Usually they'd be up in a series then choke. To get totally wiped out to this point has put the Leaf fans at a high level I've never seen before, or at least for a lengthy period of time that I can remember. That it's you got the feeling if they lost Game 4, maybe just stay in Florida, do not come back. And so Game 4 happens, the Leafs on the backs to the wall, need a big game to stay alive. The odds are they're not going to win this series. And I'll tell you right off the bat, here's my thoughts. Before this game started on Wednesday, my take was that, do I want them to win? Absolutely. Do I want Mitch Marner and Austin Matthews to perform? Absolutely. Have Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner performed? Absolutely not. And I think it's appropriate to call out the fact that they have underperformed not only this year and also previous playoff rounds. And I think the question what their future is with this organization is also something to be brought up and discussed, because if you look at in the NHL, that's a hard salary cap, and you basically have to rearrange your deck chairs to make sure that if you're going to put money into one spot, you're going to have to save in another. And they decided to go top heavy, and I'm going to say core four, but William Nylander makes 6 and change, while Matthews, Tavares, and Marner make $10 and $11 million, which is a significant chunk of the salary cap. And Austin Matthews is in that window of time to talk contract extension, as he signed a shorter contract in his last go-around. And I think we seriously have to question is, what value is it to sign Austin Matthews to another extended contract if he's only performing in the regular season? Like, what is the goal here? What's the goal? The goal is to win a Stanley Cup. And we're looking at Austin Matthews' performance, and it's not even close to where it needs to be for a superstar. There is no way we're mentioning Austin Matthews at this time in the same breath as Leon Draisaitl or Connor McDavid or Nathan McKinnon or Cale Makar and some of those other players that perform, or at least performed on a Stanley Cup winning team and or made a run where they were the impactful performers that carried their team to that next level. We're not seeing that right now. And for this team to have any hopes or thoughts of staying together, which are very minimal right now, to me, the only way is if they do miraculously, low percentage, come back from a 3-0 deficit where only 4 teams in the NHL have done it. However, like I said, that I want them to do it. They have the skill set to dominate where they could do this. They can wipe teams off the map. They get in waves of being red hot or ice cold. And the hopes are that coming into game 4, that they start thawing a bit because they were ice cold. And as we hit game 4, the city of Toronto is just on the edge of its seat. Things are on high tension at the moment. And one other aspect of it, Samsonov, goaltender, is down with an injury, and Joseph Woll, rookie goaltender, gets his first career playoff start. And the Leafs have struggled in the development of goaltenders. Not since the early 90s where Felix Potvin started his first playoff game have the Leafs been successful at all of drafting goaltenders and developing them into NHL caliber goaltenders that play for the Leafs. And the reason why I say that is, if you're a Leaf fan, you know that I can't even recall the year, but the Leafs did draft Tuukka Rask, Boston Bruins, aka legend, I guess, and then traded him away for Andrew Raycroft. That did not work out. They also had Justin Pogge, who they thought was a higher prospect than Tuukka Rask. That didn't work out. So every other prospect they've had, they have not given the time of day, and they've tended to lean on free agent goaltenders. And let's not kid ourselves that Kyle Dubas had leaned on Murray and Samsonov as the duo. And where's Murray? He's backing up. He's a flop. He's injured all the time. He's a mistake. And that's got to be also noted for Kyle Dubas' record that was a failure. So as we go in, the only thing saving this team is going to be that comeback. So I digress again. So first period action, the Leafs and Panthers scoreless. Leafs look a little better. They look hungrier than the Panthers, which is great. Wall looks solid. The Leafs, are looking hungrier, but the Panthers are pressuring the first period. Not until the second period where one of the core 4, William Nylander on the power play, scores from assist from Mitch Marner and Michael Bunting. So the core 4 get on the board, 1-0 Leafs. We head into the third period, midway through the third period, the Leafs get an insurance goal, and guess who does it? Mitch Marner. Shot from the point, scores, And I just shake my head because the way they beat Tampa Bay, a lot of their clutch goals at the end in overtime, we're seeing ice shots from the point that were deflected or there was bodies in front. And I find the Leafs tend to overly pass and don't get the puck on net when they can. And the Mitch Marner goal was an example of putting the puck on net and seeing what happens. They're up 2-0. But Sam Reinhart comes back, power play goal, 12-13, third period, makes it 2-1. Leafs are on their back, but do a great job. Luke Shen, shout out to Luke Shen. Lukey, way to go, boy. Key shot blocks, key defensive plays in the defensive zone. Saves the bacon for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Joseph Woll plays a fantastic game. And we're coming back to Toronto on Friday. So, we'll see what happens. But if you look at the series overall, the Leafs are now down to only a plus 310 series underdog of the Florida Panthers. What do you think? Sprinkle some money on that? Do the Leaf Nation out there have true faith where they'll put their money where their faith is? That's up to you. But if you want FanDuel, that's plus 310. I'm not ready to do that just yet. Let's see how it plays out. I do say that going into Friday, one of the bets I will recommend here is that we have two games that is going on. That's going to be Toronto, Florida on Friday. Currently 6.5 is the total. I'll take the alternate total. I think there will be games in this goal, but I think I'd be better off playing the 5.5 over. And the Edmonton Oilers head to Vegas for game 5. And I think over 6.5 is the play there. So, is not the play there. I would say over 5.5, also alternate total. So I will going to parlay those two together. So over in the Florida-Toronto game, over in the Edmonton-Vegas game, and your $100 will pay you $109. It's a high-scoring Friday. That's what I'm seeing. And if you follow this Vegas-Edmonton series, there's a lot of news going on here. A lot of this is getting ugly. I mean, if you want some old-time hockey where there's like fisticuffs, some bad blood, this is the series that you're missing if you're not watching already. So what have you missed in this series? Well, last night, the Edmonton Oilers did end up winning 5-1 over the Vegas Golden Knights, tying the series at 2. And if you look at the series so far right now, the series totals are Edmonton's a favorite right now. Edmonton, I think, is looked upon as the Stanley Cup favorite. And Vegas is plus 136. Now, there's value there. It's 2-2. Vegas is heading home. And they caught a break today. They caught a break because Pietrangelo, number one defenseman for the Las Vegas Golden Knights, was announced that he was suspended one game, Alex Pietrangelo, for slash on Leon Draisaitl. Now keep in mind, if you've seen this slash, he tomahawked the fuck out of Leon Draisaitl's wrist. This should have been a 2-game suspension minimum. So when I say that the Vegas Golden Knights caught a break, they caught a break. Because they'll be without their best defenseman, which I think puts Edmonton in a great position. I said Vegas has value, but coming into that game Friday night without Pietrangelo, the odds are that the Oilers are going to dance McDavid, Draisaitl, Nugent-Hopkins, Kane. All these guys are going to be getting in there. They don't have their big-time defenseman. But he should have been suspended 2 games at least for that chop. That was an attempt to injure one of the best players in the NHL. And I don't know what the NHL is doing as far as their discipline. The first round, Michael Bunting of the Toronto Maple Leafs gets a 3-game suspension for a shoulder to the head of Chernak on the Tampa Bay Lightning defenseman. First-time offender gets 3 games. So the reasoning for those 3 games included that it was interference and the player was hurt. It made it sound like the NHL was drawing a line in the sand, that they were taking discipline seriously. And then there's been other situations where there's been hits from behind. and violent plays where there's been fines and no suspensions. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. The consistency is not there. It's a failure of the NHL to step up and be a big boy league. It's a joke sometimes of how they run things behind the scenes for things like disciplinary action. And if you've seen the slash that Pietrangelo put on the wrist, that could have ended Draisaitl's season, and that could have ended the Oilers Stanley Cup run. Think about that. What slash 1 inch one way or another, a little more oomph on it. Like it's unacceptable. So Vegas, I'm going to say, got a break here. So I think there'll be some goals tomorrow night. Just absolutely ridiculous. And you watched earlier today, Carolina just knocked off New Jersey in overtime. I think that was inevitable. Carolina took a strong hold on that, and they're waiting for the winner of the Florida-Toronto series. And the best series of all overall is Kraken Dallas, baby. Kraken Dallas. And, tonight we got that game going on. The over-under on the game tonight, again, was 5.5, which it's been 5.5 for the first 4 games leading up to tonight. And each game has gone over. And some of these games have been well over by the second period. Some of them have not had scoring in the first period and been over. And I'm wondering what's going on here. 5.5. It's like it's trying to catch me. So tonight I also put the over on the 5.5. Game 5 that was still sitting there. And it's 3-2 heading into the third period with, over 10 minutes to go. And maybe this is the night where I get screwed over. Maybe this is the night where they were waiting for me the whole time to be invested in the whole concept of the Kraken Dallas game, to look like there's a flaw in the line, and I take it. And tonight was the night that we get you 3-2 with 8 minutes to go in the second period, and we're going to hold off and not have another goal. I mean, if that happens, I'm going to puke, but we'll see what happens there. So, Kraken, Dallas, probably the most entertaining series maybe in the second round, to be honest. Just so many goals being scored, if you feel like that. And we'll see what happens there. And there's good value there. Obviously, the line's off the board right now due to the fact the game's on. But the series, the Kraken were plus 200 and change. And I don't understand that. These teams are tied. What has Dallas shown that they've dominated the Kraken? Kraken are very much in the series. And very much could win the series. So the value is still there, but we'll see. I mean, tonight what happens. And Dallas is not a lock to win the series. All right. I'm going to shift our focus now. Head to the National Basketball Association. A lot of things going on here. One, right now we got the Nuggets and we got the Suns. The Nuggets currently up 91-65. 6 minutes to go in the third quarter. Nuggets look like they're stepping on the throat of the Phoenix Suns. And this could be the end of what we thought was the NBA favorite after the Kevin Durant trade. And you know what? Jokic needed this. If they knock off the Suns, he needs this win. I feel in the NBA that once you are awarded the league MVP, then the pressure's on. If you have not got a ring, that the bar is now set, that you need to chase that ring to justify that award you had won previously. And I think that's where Jokic is right now. He needs a ring and or a strong showing going to the final and being the main guy to justify those 2 MVPs that he had. And the same thing's happened with Joel Embiid, by the way. If the Sixers fall in Game 7 to the Boston Celtics, people are going to question that MVP. And or think about it going into next season. Because if he doesn't have a ring or push his team further in the playoffs than they've ever been after he's gotten the MVP, then there's going to be a little shade on that MVP. So that's how the NBA works, in my opinion. That MVP is great, but it put extra weight on your shoulders. And speaking of the NBA series, we have Boston, Philadelphia. Boston, ice cold sons of bitches, go into Philadelphia, take the series comfortably in the fourth quarter, and they're heading back to Boston. All right, Boston. And it's going to be Game 7 on Sunday night. Big matchup. Sixers, Celtics. Boston just finds a way to win. They are a team. They're all business. They got a lot of guys that just show up and they eat, sleep, winning and professionalism. So they got a great thing going on in Boston. But that doesn't mean I don't think Philadelphia can win this game. But where I'm looking at here is the spread on Sunday night is 7.5 points. The Sixers are underdogs. 7.5 points. I mean, that's a big window of wiggle room here. Where why can't Philadelphia win this game plus 260? I mean, you might want to sprinkle some money on the money line. You know, Philadelphia has walked in to Boston in one games. It's not like it's a home series kind of series. You know what I mean? Like where the home teams are coming out with wins. I don't get it. So we'll see what happens there. But I like the plus 7.5. I think if you look at the Miami-New York series, New York made it 3-2. But as far as a series, I just don't see Miami dropping 2 more games to the Knicks. And I think when it comes to sports bettors, I think the bettors out there also agree as Miami holds a minus 430 to win the series. And they're only up 3-2. I mean, minus 430, you think they're still up 3-1. But I think the world is looking at New York as, hey, thanks for coming out. You had a good season, but you're not going past Miami. But going into Friday night, I do like the over 208.5. And I'll tell you why. You know, they've already played 5 games. 4 of them have already gone 209 or higher. So, I mean, if you're just looking at numbers, the numbers are telling you that you want to be on the side of the over. So I'll tell you that's where I'm going to focus my attention. Big series. Golden State sends it back to LA. Game 6. LA has another chance to close it out. Anthony Davis, who knows what his health is. He got an elbow to the head. Apparently he's in a wheelchair, being wheeled around. But apparently concussion is not what he got. So the odds are he's going to be playing. Big blow for the Golden State Warriors is that you have Andrew Wiggins questionable with rib cartilage damage, which is significant because Andrew Wiggins over the last few years has played more and more of a significant role for this Golden State team. And I got to believe the 221 on Friday is too low because the Golden State Warriors are ice cold right now. And can it really be ice cold, all this time where threes are a problem? Threes for this team? The splash brothers? Like, how is this problem? Klay Thompson? You're talking about how well he's playing defensively. There's a problem there. There's a problem there. But they are the champs. They have the pedigree. So I'm gonna say the over. And I also like the value in the series for Golden State. This is I'm kind of going off the board here. But Golden State right now to win the series is plus 188. I would say there's value there. I don't know if there's enough value there to risk it like you would with, like, let's say a Kraken, which would have been plus 200 and change in the NHL. But, I mean, if you think the Golden State Warriors are going to do it, now's the time to bet it. I also saw some props in there thinking Golden State's going to, win. Curry is over 31.5 points. Kind of like that he'll step up in a game like this. Just Klay Thompson. His over-under in points is 21.5 for Klay Thompson. That's what it's sunk to. And, if Wiggins is playing, if Wiggins is going to play and be in the lineup, 17.5 points for Andrew Wiggins, plus 100. I sprinkle a little something on that. He had 25 points last game. I know he's got the rib issue coming in, but if he's in the lineup, it's going to be their backs are against the wall. And maybe Andrew Wiggins has his moment. Has another moment. He had a big moment last year with their run to the finals. So I like that. All right, so that's the basketball picture right now. Let's take a quick stop into the NFL. The full schedule was released today. There was a few sprinklings of games that were released in previous days, international games. There are a lot, which I hope they do continue to have the 9:30 a.m. games on many Sundays. Love that morning game. So there's going to be a sprinkling games of London, Germany, etc., Mexico, A lot of stuff going on there. Now, if you check your sports book, you're probably going to notice, like FanDuel, that week one lines are already up with line spreads, over-unders. And this is the most analyzed line or analyzed week of the year because of the timeline that you have to bet it versus, week in, week out action where injuries, etc., play a big role. Now, things that stand out to me, and I guarantee you can analyze the hell out of this between now and September 7th when the Lions and Chiefs kick off on the Thursday nighter to open the season. So the Lions, if you overanalyze this, are plus 6.5. Chiefs are 6.5 point favorites. Over under 53.5. What sticks out to me right off the bat is the Lions. The Lions right now are the darling. That team, you're going to have everybody talk about who is going to win, divisions here and there. And the Lions are going to be that team that everybody's talking about that are going to win. Don't know what kind of Chicago's going to bring to the table. We don't know what Green Bay is going to have with Jordan Love at quarterback. Minnesota, well, they should still be strong, but they're not, consistently dominant. So here's a line I'm going to throw in there right now, and maybe you should put some money on it immediately. We have the Super Bowl champions, the Kansas City Chiefs. We're talking killers here. Mahomes, Kelsey. Who knows who else they pick up before training camp? The Kansas City Chiefs are in that position where they're going to make another Super Bowl run, where guys, on the back end of their career will be the first guys to sign up to that one-year contract to be a part of Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid's run to another Super Bowl. This team is looking for a legacy. It's not a fluke team. And you look at home, opening night, Super Bowl champs, 6.5 for the Detroit Lions. Jared Goff had a great year last year. But he's Jared Goff. And he's going into Kansas City. I like 6.5 here. And you watch. I think the Lions will have a popular enough, because of length of time and no previous game to look at, that if that line may go down. That may go down to 6. Right now, 6.5 should be hammered. The Kansas City Chiefs should wipe the Lions off the face of the planet. And I say that it's strong, but there's 6.5 points for the Super Bowl champions for a team that still has question marks, right? Potential, but question marks. So I like that a lot. And if you go zip through the week one, Arizona, Washington's a 6-point favorite. You have Carolina, Atlanta. You have Bengals. Bengals are only a 2.5 point favorite on the road in Cleveland. So there is a lot of people that I guess Deshaun Watson feel is the man. So he's gonna rebound and have a better season. Baltimore, Texas, Vegas, and Denver. Sean Payton's is giving this Denver team a 3.5 point favorite over the Vegas, which obviously has Jimmy G at quarterback. What a nice matchup too. San Francisco. In Pittsburgh, you're going to hear a lot about Pittsburgh and their young offense. Kenny Pickett and a lot of that receiver core and tight ends, offensive line. That's going to be the darling story of the AFC. And then San Francisco, obviously, is Purdy going to be back? What's their situation with Trey Lance? A lot of stuff going on in San Francisco. Watch that line. That's very interesting. Buccaneers, Baker Mayfield, Minnesota. 5.5 Minnesota, Jacksonville -4 over Indy. Indy at home is a 4-point underdog. Jacksonville had a great year, but game one going, I don't know. A lot of stuff going on here. Tennessee, New Orleans, Rams, Seattle 4.5 point favorites over the LA Rams. Was that Stafford's going to be back healthy? I don't know. Packers 1-point dogs in Chicago. How dare Aaron Rodgers? Oh, that's right. Aaron Rodgers not there. Aaron Rodgers, with no Green Bay, there's nobody to own Chicago anymore. That's interesting. Dolphins, great matchup here. It's LA Chargers in a 4:00 game. Eagles, who absolutely, by the way, if you look at the rating of the toughest schedule, the Eagles have pound for pound the toughest schedule in the new season. So They're built to go back to take another run, and they're going to need all the talent they can because their schedule is brutal. And they take on the Patriots week 1, and they're 4-point favorites. Cowboys, how about them Cowboys? 2.5-point favorites over the Giants, and a Monday nighter. And I guess, is there anything there's a coincidence that the Jets and Bills are playing on Monday night to open the season? Has anybody joined the Jets? Well, the Jets are already 2-point dogs, which I'm surprised. Well, the Bills are the Bills. But I wonder if that will flip as we get closer to the season. Jets, Aaron Rodgers, Monday night, got to be there. But that's just a quick glance in the NFL. But what stood out to me is that Kansas City line, 6.5, Super Bowl champions. You watch, Kansas City's not slowing down. And, Detroit's got promise. That's all promise is. They're not the Super Bowl champs, so take it for what it is. As I move on, to soccer EPL action. This is get your coffee ready on your Saturday morning. Get things going. And there's a lot of movement to be made in the EPL. A lot of standings can change. And if you haven't followed European soccer, it doesn't matter necessarily the complete story. It matters who wins, obviously, the division. The domestic league. And if I look at the EPL, you have a lot of positions where it's hard to explain if you don't know what you're listening to. So depending on your top position, you can be in the Champions League, Europa League. There's another league in there as well, or you have to win to stave off relegation into the lower leagues, which is a significant economic impact for many of these teams. So there's a lot to play for many of these teams, even though there's 3 to 4 games depending on who you are to go. And one game that stands out to me, and this is the 7:30 early morning game. Newcastle visits Leeds. Leeds, new coach. Newcastle is up and running. Newcastle has Saudi money now. They're third in the EPL right now, currently holding a Champions League spot. Liverpool, even though it has a game in hand on Liverpool, is really moving up. So Newcastle needs points here. Leeds needs points to stave off being relegated. They're currently 2 points over in a relegation spot right now. They need to climb out. So what I like here in this matchup is let me check my phone. I took a picture of this earlier, and the bet here, once I find it, is $100 to win $121, and that is over a goal and a half, 23 shots or more on, not on target, just attempts. I see Newcastle's tenacious. They keep coming in swarms, and Leeds I think has got to fight and get points. So I think they're not going to be shy of trying to get balls, get shots away. And if you know me and you've been listening to this podcast, Newcastle and corners go together. So let's recap this game: over 1.5. 23 or more shots, and over 8.5 corners. $100 wins you $121. Same game parlay. Book it. Now here's one that I feel good about, but I'll leave it to you if you feel that this is where you want to go. And that's Aston Villa, Tottenham. Tottenham out Spurs and Aston Villa. But Aston Villa's had a strong season, rebounding from earlier, floundering, what's going on. So Tottenham and Aston Villa. Tottenham is on the ropes. They've dropped into a Europa position, which, in a normal year, hey, great, you got a Europa position. However, they were comfortably in a Champions League position, which is significantly a higher grade of football going into next year, and obviously economically way more lucrative. And they've dropped down, and Brighton, who has 2 games in hand, is right on their tails. And Aston Villa is only 3 points behind, looking to get into European football. So they have something to play for here. Now, here's what I look at. I'm looking at a same game parlay again, and I like over 2.5 goals. For some reason I like Tottenham to explode with Kane and Song, and Richarlison actually I think is going to step up. So take the same game parlay, Tottenham, Aston Villa, over 2.5 goals, along with over 8.5 corners. 100 is going to pay $132. Sunday action. Sunday. Talked about Brighton. Brighton is in action. Let me just bring it up. Brighton. So nice and Brighton. And Arsenal, who has choked away to Man City, the lead in the English Premier League, needs wins and needs them badly. And Brighton Arsenal smell to me goals. I like over 2.5 goals, same game parlay, along with 9 or more shots on target. And so $100 will pay you at $91. And I think this is going to be an interesting matchup. Brighton got smoked earlier in the week by Everton, which nobody's seen that coming, but it did happen. These are the 3 EPL plays I'll mention, and should make it a fun Saturday and Sunday as that season wraps up. I'm not really putting any money on it, but if you guys are golf fans, remember that the live betting is still available for the Byron Nelson Classic going on. Strong field out there, but keep your radar open, especially Overrated experience, close listeners and loyalists that could enter the May 18th PGA Championship Major pool, selecting golfers as we did in the Masters. So exciting to look forward to that, but that's the next big event we're building for on the golf scene. A lot going on there. I'm trying to think of any of those. Oh, MLB. Said we'll sprinkle a little bit of MLB in here. So this weekend, this is courteous of the cartel, but more importantly, Adam, our buddy out there, who is always giving his picks and insight, analytics, and I think he's bang on with looking at going through the summer and looking at 2 teams, 2 fantastic teams. No, actually, he pinpointed 2 very, very shit teams. Mostly one of these teams stands out more than the other, and that is the Oakland A's are absolute garbage on historical, can't score runs, wins. They're just trash. So Kansas City Royals also trash. A little smelling better trash than maybe Oakland is, but both teams that keeping an eye on a daily basis to follow the run line to whoever they're playing. So this weekend, as an example, Texas is playing Oakland. And even tonight, if you look at the board, let me just see the latest on this. So tonight in the MLB action, Texas was up 4-0 and finished 4-0 over Oakland. And the line tomorrow is Texas run line is -1.5, -111 Oakland. Seems good value to me. And if it's good value to Adam, it's good value to me. And then you have Milwaukee also in the same boat, playing at home tomorrow, -111 run line over Kansas City. So keep an eye on that. I mean, you really got to learn the run line, and you do got to win more times than you're not going to even out by splitting those if you're consistently betting that. So a team like Oakland gets crushed on a nightly basis, and there is value there to keep an eye on their run line. And also, a series that I like to think that there's going to be some runs is the Padres taking on the LA Dodgers. This has kind of been a heated rivalry for a while, and you got Fernando Tatis Jr. back in the lineup, and he's been back for a couple of weeks for the Padres, and he's hitting the ball really well. The first game has an over-under of 9. I like the over. I'm going to chase the over on this series, whether it be bringing the total down, but I believe the ball's going to be flying out of Chavez Ravine. And keep an eye on this series. I think this will be the most entertaining MLB series of the weekend. I think there'll be some tension. I think there'll be some hostility. Manny Machado spent a little time with the Dodgers. I think there's a little bit of hostility there. So interesting to watch. Keep an eye on it, but I think there's going to be runs. And speaking of runs, I'm running away from because I've done this podcast. I think I'm done. I think it's it. I think there's nothing more to say. All I'm going to say is go Leafs go, but my hopes are not so high, but I hope anyway. Have a great weekend of betting action. Join us again on Twitter at Overrated EXPR2 and the Overrated Experience page on Facebook. Please join us. I'm your host, Kyle Blondin. Have a nice evening.